Now that we have seen how to create a table, after creating the table we might have to enter the values into the table. Let's see with examples and the syntax of how to insert some values into the table. Now for that reason I am going to take an example. So let us say there is a table by name department DEPT, and the attributes in the table are like this. One is department ID and the other is department name, and say one more is location. Okay, so if you consider that these are the attributes which are present in the table, now if you have to enter a new tuple or a new row into this table, there are various ways. One way is directly give the values into the table without talking about these attribute names. If you are going to give 3 attributes in the order, in some order, it will think as if the first attribute belongs to this, the first value belongs to this attribute, the second value belongs to this attribute, and third value belongs to this attribute. Now let's see the syntax corresponding to that style. So what is it? If you are going to give 3 values and if you want to enter it as a tuple inside this table, then the corresponding values will be considered as if they are values belonging to the first attribute, second attribute, and third attribute respectively. Let's see the example here. Now this is syntax 1. Insert into table name. So whatever table you want to insert this row in, you have to write the table name, and you have to specify what are the values of the attributes, right? In this case, values attribute 1, attribute 2, so on. Now for example, if you want to insert into this table 1 CSC and Hyderabad, then you have to say insert into department. Department is the table name, and what are the values of the corresponding attributes. So 1 CSC and Hyderabad. Now what happens because of that query is, see this here. Now for department ID it is 1, and for department name it is going to be CSC, and for location it is going to be Hyderabad. Now how do you know that department number has to be 1? Because out of the 3 values entered, you are going to see the order. In the order first comes 1, that is why it belongs to the department ID, right? And next comes CS, and next comes location. Now when you are using this kind of syntax, you cannot miss out any of the attributes, or you cannot change the order in which you are going to specify the attributes. For example, if you write it as 1 comma Hyderabad comma CSC, 1 comma HYD comma CSC, then it will take department name as HYD and location as CSC. Therefore the order is important as well as specifying every attribute is important if you are going to use this syntax. What is the syntax? Insert into table name without specifying the attribute names if you directly give the values. Got it? And the next way is, okay, the conditions are like this. Attribute values should be in the order of the attribute list. So what is the order? First one is the department number and department name and location. That order should be followed. And the next one is number of attribute values should be equal to the number of attributes in the attribute list, which means you cannot skip or miss out any of the attribute values. And let's see the second syntax. The other syntax is, if you want to specify this one in any other order, let us say you want to enter 1 and then Hyderabad and then CSC, then you have to specify that you are entering department ID first and then location first and then department name at the end. You have to specify it clearly, right? So if you observe it, insert into table name, here you are going to give all the attribute names and then you are going to specify values. So if you want to change the order or if you want to miss out some of the attributes, then you have to use this syntax, right? For example, see this, insert into department ID comma department name comma location. Here you are clearly specifying that whatever value I am first entering corresponds to the department ID, and whatever value I am second entering corresponds to the department name, and whatever value I am entering at the end corresponds to the location. Now if you are going to write this, then what will be entered is, so first one is department ID, which means 2 will be entered, and the second one is department name, which means EC is entered, and the second one is location KGP. Now since you have given the attributes in the same order in which the attributes are specified in the table, you need not actually write it this way. You could have even written it without specifying the attribute name, right? Names here. But anyway, both are going to be the same. Now this will be really useful whenever you try to skip or miss some of the attribute values. Now see the next one. Insert into department ID comma department name. Now if you observe this, location is missing, right? So whenever you are missing one of the attribute, it is better that you specify what are the values of the attributes that you are mentioning, you want to enter. For example, here you want the department ID to be 3 and you want the department name to be EEE, and you are not mentioning the department location, isn't it? Therefore 3 will be entered here and then EEE will be entered here, and now you are not mentioning anything about this. So there are two choices then. One is, if default constraint is already specified on this location, then that particular default value will be occurring here. Let us say while creating the table there is a default value for this and the default value is Hyderabad. Now you are not mentioning anything, that is why Hyderabad will be taken. Now if you have not given the default value, then simply null will be considered in this case. Got it? So these are the two ways in which you can enter the values into the table in a basic way. Now later we shall see how to use this insert or how to enter the insert using subqueries and queries and views. Later we shall see other formats, but then in order to look at those formats, we have not covered some topics yet. So after covering some more topics, we'll again revisit insert. There we can see what we can write here without specifying the values explicitly. Okay, fine.